Hey, welcome to Glaze's Geezer Garage. This week we're going to do a very detailed video on making inner fender well extensions that goes from where the fender well ends on a stock Corvette to the firewall. Now, of course, remember, I have a dynamic Corvette smooth firewall, so these extensions are a little shorter than they would be for stock. But I made the molds out of, I took a cardboard template, made the molds out of sheet metal, formed them, bent them, reinforced them so I could reuse them in case you guys might want some of these extensions. But hey, enjoy the video. Hope you enjoy it. It's a little longer video. It's a technical video, but stay with it and let me know what you think about it. What you're looking at here, if you take a back up view, you're looking at the driver's side inner fender well. And what I learned was if you look here, this part of the fender well sticks in pretty far, and when you turn the car to the left all the way, it's rubbing this. I didn't like the way that fit. Plus, I'm gonna fill in this space right here with a filler, which a lot of guys do on the resto mods. So my first thing I want to do is I cut out this section that sticks in like that. So you can see there, it gives me clearance. And then when I fabricate this piece that goes all the way from here to the firewall, comes down here like this, it's going to come down, but it'll come down more straight. And so let me show you how I'm going to do that down here. This driver's side contours in where the passenger side does not, so the passenger side is going to be a lot easier. But let me show you what I'm doing here to work this indent in. So you can see here, I'm going to do a smooth inner fender well all the way back. Chances are I may go to an actuated hood system, which means you don't need the lockdown levers. You can just use the actuator to hold the hood down. At least that's what I'm seeing with other resto mods. Yeah, so let me show you what I'm doing here. Here's a view from underneath where I cut that section out. You can see there I'm going to trim that up too to kind of follow the contour of the frame. Kind of like the way that looks. But let me show you what else I made. I'm going to come in and make a little fiberglass mold so there's not a hole there, and I'll show you that. So what I've made here is I guess you would call it a plug. So I'll cover this piece here with foil tape and then clamp it up in there, and then I will fiberglass that in to create a flange, and I'll show you what that looks like. Here's what the piece looks like with foil tape on it. Let's clamp it in place so you can understand how I'm going to fiberglass this. I guess you would call this a plug, but let me show you how that works. What I'm actually doing is just creating a plug here. So, and then it's just going to be a short flange here. So this mark here is just to show how much I need to fiberglass over. And that'll give me a flange to glue or to attach, I should say, the panel to, because the panel is just going to attach here probably with some type of fasteners, either Zeus fasteners or something simple like that. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but yeah. So basically, just have to fiberglass into here, around here, and then over about this far. I'll probably come out a little further. Probably give me a mark so I have a lot of flange. Maybe I'll fiberglass out to here. And then I can cut that off where I want that flange. So let's start fiberglassing. I'm going to rough this up here and here. I might try to move this clamp up further to get it out of my way so I can fiberglass up on there a little more. So this is what it looks like after it's glassed in. Of course, all the other edges will be trimmed off. But you'll see once I trim it up how nice it looks. But that's, once you do a little sanding and stuff, that's what you'll see from the underside. The other side will be covered, of course. But what I had to do was fill in this gap, because when I bring my piece of fiberglass down, I didn't want that gap to be there, so. Okay, the fiberglass is set up real nice overnight. I just gotta trim this to where I want it, and then I'll show you guys the end result. But you can see I filled in that gap. That will no longer be there, so when I put my other fender well down, it'll just look natural. And there is the finished product. I filled that gap up good. My filler for the inner fender well will actually cover this and be all one panel. So the next thing I'm doing is I'm going to put a filler panel in here. So the process is going to be to cut a pattern out of poster board, which I've done here, and then I will trace this on a piece of sheet metal. Then I will bend that sheet metal so it has some rigidity, and then I will use that sheet metal as a plug to create a form. It'd be so thin that I probably don't have to create a plug. I probably could just fiberglass over the sheet metal, pop the sheet metal off, and then use that piece. The problem is it's going to be rough on that side unless I use the underside. But I may have to create a mold, and then, which I might do because people might want to buy these because these are stock wheel wells. A couple modifications here because they were touching the tires as I indicated. But let me show you how this fits in there. It basically just goes right here. I'm gonna glue a flange up under here. I have just have a piece of wood under there right now. But when you get that in there, it looks basically just like that. Yeah, it looks real nice. Could be the same on the other side. I already have that pattern cut out too. Yeah, I gotta get me some sheet metal and then cut these patterns out and then go from there. What I've done here is I've taken this sheet metal, which is going to be my mold, and I've put the bend in it here, just guessing right now at the angle. Now I'm going to try to bend the curvature in it that we had in the cardboard. So the cardboard was, if you see here, this matches that. That's my template. And the cardboard was up in there and then bent and then had a curve like that. And so I'm going to try to get that curve in there, try to find something that's probably about a 4 or 5 inch radius, and just hand bend it around there in the vise. Let me go see what I got. As you can see here, I've already started to kind of form the bend. I don't want to go any further because I know it's got to go a little tighter here, this radius, but I'm going to wait till I can actually try it in the car. The problem I have right now is as you can see over there, I've glued these pretty heavy metal strips in there, which is going to be what I fasten the top of it to. And I need to leave it clamped because I have it glued in there with the 3M panel glue. So I'm going to let this set up overnight and kind of come back and finish bending it tomorrow. So from this pattern I created down here, I trace it onto sheet metal. And the reason I trace onto sheet metal is because it's more rigid. And so I formed it. I'm going to go ahead and make this sheet metal my mold. I'll paint and sand this real smooth. But you can see here how it fits in here nicely. Everything fits in nice and snug. So yeah, it looks good. And then of course, when you get the molded part, you'll grind and trim that up and fit a little tighter, but this is very, very close, so I'm real happy with it. I did the same thing on this side, created a template. I'm marking passenger side so I don't get confused. This one fits up in there real nice too. Nice tight fit here. I like that. I think I'm going to put some ribs here to kind of reinforce this and keep the curvature that I like. I might give it a little more curvature down here to match the other side. So I really like this. What I did here is I cut two 2-inch strips, 13 inches long. These are going to be my reinforcement ribs. I will bend them in my brake at a 90, and I'll use the stretcher to create that curve, and then I'll just glue these on. Actually, I need 4 of these. Don't know if that's going to give me enough. I can cut a couple more out of this one. Two inches wide. Mark it there and there. Okay, let's go break these right here. Nice 90. Here's a quick look at the molds I made out of sheet metal. I bent these in my stretcher and shrinker right there. So I put that curve in there, and that's going to give this some rigidity when I mold it so that I don't lose my shape. I have both of them. I just used the 3M panel adhesive. I ground both surfaces to give it plenty of adhesion, and these should hold up nicely. So yeah, if you have stock inner fender wells in the front, these should work. Tomorrow I'll probably mold some parts out of one of them at least. Let's see how it turns out. So pretty happy with the mold making process here. I'm not too worried about making a fiberglass mold. This is just one sheet. Once I make the fiberglass part, I'll probably have to trim a little off the top because it's going to be a little longer in that slot, but that's no big deal. I can trim that off pretty easy. Yep, I'm really happy with it. Passenger side, driver's side. I'm gonna paint these up, clear coat them, wet sand them, get these super smooth so I can make a fiberglass part out of it. This is the side I'll be layering up with fiberglass, so I want to clean it real good and give it a few coats of paints, wet sanding in between so it's nice and smooth. Here's my inner fender well molds. This is the filler plate that's going to go between the front fender, inner fender well and the firewall. These are the molds. So this is, I have four coats of sanding primer on there, so I could sand it smooth, and then I'll do a wet sand it, and then I'll do a clear coat and wet sand that. So I'll have a nice surface and a permanent mold here, so I can make these if anybody else wants them. But yeah, I have my front inner fender well filler panel molds completed as far as fabrication goes. I have a coat of metal etching primer, 3 coats of sanding primer, filler primer I should say. I have it 600 wet sanded. I have them all cleaned off. What I normally do, because I keep my shop here at 55 degrees at night, but I just bumped it up to 62, saving a little energy. But what I do is, if you remember in one of my previous videos, I have a tube type heater, radiant heater I think they call it. And because I'm gonna lift this Corvette up a little bit and work on it, I set them up, I set everything, including the paint, up on the roof. So when I raise the Corvette, it warms the metal parts up and the can of paint up to about 70 degrees, which is what I like. Because of its radiant heat, it heats the panels up directly, higher than 62 degrees. So I took a temperature once, they were about 70, which is ideal for painting. Now I will wait to paint those till later in the day, because if I'm gonna work in here, I don't wanna work in all the fumes. So I'm not really set up with a small paint booth, which I may do that later. Not a big one for a car, but just a regular little paint booth, so to speak, for small parts like this. Okay, I have my 2 molds here for the front inner fender well, between the firewall and the stock fender well. As I showed you guys in the previous video, I had primered them, wet sanded them, 3 coats of clear paint. The paint came out so smooth, I'm not even going to wet sand the clear coat. This thing's going to get body work and painted after I'm done with them anyway, so I'm putting on the 3rd coat of wax here. You put 3 coats of wax, you wait about a minute between each coat to wipe it off. Then you wait about an hour for the wax to flash off, and then you can start your gel coat. And then once you get the gel coat on, you should wait probably overnight before you start your fiberglass lettering. So let's get the wax in both these and get them ready for gel coat. Yeah, I forgot to mention, before you put the gel coat, you put 3 coats of this PVA polyvinyl alcohol water-based mold release over the wax part, or I should say mold. So yeah, this goes on actually next, but I need to wait about an hour for this wax to kind of flash off. So let's do the other piece. What I'm doing now is I've laid this fiberglass mesh on the mold to make sure this piece was big enough. I'm going to do 4 layers for each mold, for each side. So I got some cut out, so we're going to cut the rest out of here. This welding table makes a nice layout table too. That's why I got it covered with stuff, so I don't, hopefully I can get enough pieces here. Need 3 more. I don't know. It's gonna be tight. My last piece here, I had to do 2 pieces together, but that's okay. That'll be my last layer. Yeah, so we got all the fiberglass mesh cut out for both sides. So realized I was out of small plastic paint mix containers, which I use for fiberglass. So I'm gonna have to run to the parts store down the road about 10 minutes and get some. So Hang tight. I've put one coat of the PVA mold release on both of these molds. Now we wait 45 minutes between coats. We'll put 3 coats. So I'm gonna set my timer for 45 minutes and put another coat on. I apply these coats with a sponge brush. You can spray it on, but I don't know, I don't really want to set up my sprayer for all this. And this using the sponge brush worked good for me the last time, so I'm going to continue with that. See a little green tint to it. That's this PVA. It is a green tint. So, yep, keep moving along.
Okay, I'm adding the gel coat.
I'm adding the gel coat to these 2-form molds. Okay, the gel coat is set up. It's not transferring onto my fingers. Still got a little tack to it, which is good. So I'm gonna start laying up some fiberglass. I think I'm gonna lay 2 layers on each mold this morning and then come back tomorrow or this afternoon and lay a couple more layers. The biggest reason I found out is when you're doing a corner like this, if you lay up too many layers at once, it wants to hump up here. And I want that to be a nice bend in the fiberglass there. So I'm gonna change up my method a little bit. I have 3 layers of fiberglass on each one of these inner fender well extensions. I believe I'm going to come back tomorrow morning and add another layer on each one. I may even pick up some fiberglass today and add an additional layer, but I think 4 layers would be plenty. This is pretty heavy mesh stuff. So yeah, it turned out good. I'm really happy with it. Let's see how it goes. Okay, we're out here this morning. These parts have set up nicely. Let's see how easy they pop out of the mold here. I'm just gonna try to pop it loose a little bit here. Coming pretty good. Wow, come out of there pretty nicely. Oh wow, nice part. Wow, nice finish. I'll wash this mold release off. But yeah, I'm real happy with these parts. Reuse that mold, permanent mold, out of steel. Real nice. let's get these washed up. I'm gonna start trimming these up, trimming the fiberglass off before I wash the mold release off. As you can see, I have the part trimmed. Now I'm going to wash off the mold release, the screen film, and see what the surface looks like. Okay, here's a close-up of the piece. I nicked the gel coat there, but that's all right because this is getting trimmed up on the bottom. I see a little bit of ridges here. That was in the paint job on the mold. Looks like I should wet sand that out a little more, but no big deal. But this gets all primered, wet sanded, and painted, so I'm not worried about that. But I see a little bit of streaks. You can't see it in the camera probably on the gel coat. If I was going to do a lot of these parts, I would invest in a spray nozzle to spray the gel coat. Puts it on more evenly, but you know, I'm very happy with this part. Let's get the other one washed up, trimmed, start fitting these in. The passenger side filler panel came out great too. A little nick there with the grinder, but again, this is all going to be body worked and painted. But you know what? Overall, I'm very pleased with these parts. Turned out real nice. Let's see how they fit. Well, folks, I am very pleased with how these turned out. I mean, pretty amazing. Yeah, it's a little bit of work to make the molds, but boy, what you get in return is pretty amazing. Now, from what I can see, this one is raised off the frame a little more than this one. So I'll probably trim this up to kind of match how far off the frame that is right there if you look real close. This one's about 1/4, maybe 3/8. This one's pretty tight, so I may trim that up. But other than that, if you look at it, you know, once that's painted the same color, everything, and these edges here rounded off and body worked, it's going to be super nice. So yeah, I just got a little clamp down there holding things together, but got a couple bolts in the top. I'll get a real flathead bolt, probably something without even any fitting on it, but yeah, this looks good. Hey, thanks for watching this week's video on me making the inner fender well extensions from the where the fender well is to the firewall. Listen, I made these molds so I could make more sets of these left and right. If you guys are interested, let me know. I'm not in a production mode right now, but if enough people want them, I could, you know, build up my supplies of fiberglass, and I could also extend these a little bit for a stock firewall. So hey, let me know what you guys think. Please comment below. Please like, share, and subscribe most of all. Really appreciate you guys watching the video, so thanks a lot.